Hello! Today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to make texture paint. This is used in basing, and also if you're doing a large table you can use it, or a large terrain piece. Mix up whatever amount you need, really. It's also something you can get from a variety of other sources if you don't want to make it yourself. I highly recommend the Vallejo Dark Earth. It's, I want to say, $8 for this, possibly less, but it comes in many different colors. There's a whiter version you can use, there's a darker red, and a sandy color. Those are the four that I've seen. And I can get it open here. Oops. Yeah, that happens as it dries around the rim. So that's what it looks like when it's dried, and makes for some good basing. You can also just paint it and color it if you want. Here it is wet. I think you can kind of see the light's not in it. Well, anyway, that's one of the materials you can use, or one of the sources you can use. The other one, of course, is GW's own line, which I find is convenient for small basing, but for a whole army or for terrain is just a little too expensive for what you get. And it does have a problem with other GW paints in my experience, and does dry out. So this is the Sterling Mud, and it's very nice, but it's about half empty now. I used it for a particular project that we needed to match colors with. Anyway, to make your texture paint, you want a variety of sand grits. I have sand that I've actually sifted myself from playground sand, so that you have a medium over here and two of the smaller granules, as well as one of the fine. This is a different sand actually, but it doesn't matter because the color won't matter. The other ingredients are glue. This is just regular PVA glue. I don't think you would want to use wood glue, because wood glue can change colors, but I don't know how that would be affected by paint. I've not used it, so I just caution you, keep that in mind. Also, I'm making a dark brown, and I don't happen to have the dark brown color, so what I'm going to do is use black, maybe not the whole black, and regular brown, medium brown acrylic paint. These are craft paints. They're just the ones you get out of the $1.49 bottle size you can get from places like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, or the craft stores. And all you're really going to do is mix all this together with a little bit of water. I haven't measured these amounts before, so I'm trying to again give you an idea of how much I use normally. The water is, you just have to mix it up and see how it goes. You do want to use distilled water though, so nothing grows in your mixture. Excuse me. You'll also want to put in a little bit of flow aid to help it move around a little bit when you put it down, and it does help, seemingly helps mix it a little bit too. If you don't have flow aid, you can use a little drop of something like dishwashing or washing up soap. It does the same sort of thing, helps break surface tension, and so it'll smooth out and go places better. I usually use something like a mason jar or smaller jar if I'm not doing a big amount for keeping it in, because you want something that's airtight. The other thing to be aware of is, after a while, if you leave it sit, it will separate. It is not a professional product, so it's going to separate into somewhat of its components, and you'll need to mix it again. Not really a big deal as long as you keep it sealed and don't, if you need to, add more water. I'd start with the water first. Anyway, alright, so let's mix. Get some of this out of the way. So it doesn't really matter what order you put things in, but I find it's easier to do a little bit like baking, where you mix dry ingredients separately from your wet ingredients. So I'm actually going to use one of my bins of holding stuff here, and mix up the dry stuff in here. So these are little bitty reusable cups. They hold 2 ounces, so take it or leave it. And if you're using the fine dust, the fine mixture, make sure you be careful of the dust. You can add other things in if you want. Sprue bits. You can make a bigger stuff. You can get out the cat hair. You can put in larger pieces. I'm using this kind of for general purpose, so I don't want it to have too many big pieces. It's literally going to be just foundation. And the other find, as you can probably see that dust coming up. Doesn't have to be really thoroughly mixed. We're going to mix it more when we get the wet stuff together. Okay, put that to the side. Get this jar. Now, I prefer to mix the paint part first to make sure I get the right color, and I'll mix the water in with that. If there's not too much water in the rest of it, if there's not enough water in the rest of the mix, then I'll add more. But the glue will add some liquid and water to it, so as long as you're just trying to get it a good consistency so that the glue is what makes it stick and the water is what helps it flow. Get my sticks over here. I'm going pretty dark on this with the craft paint, but you kind of just play it by ear. You can always add whatever colors you want. I mean, if you're doing an alien landscape, you could, add blue. But I'd like this is about the color I use for my general terrain pieces, and then I just paint over it if I need to, or, I usually end up painting over it anyway because primer. But if you wanted to, you could use this as the end product and then wait for it to dry and then dry brush it. I'm not sure I want all this brown in there, so I'm going to see. You see those goopy bits? That's the problem with craft store acrylic. Mix that up. Add some water. Possibly shouldn't have mixed it in the mason jar. I'm not sure you can actually see that. Add the rest, I think. I do want it a bit lighter than that. The craft store acrylic black does not cover as opaquely as miniature paint. It's not as pigmented. You can also use the artists, like student artist colors. Those are acrylics. Get some on sale. There you go. I would probably, I wouldn't use oil, not because it's not a good medium, it's just useful for other things, but in our case it wouldn't, well, you couldn't mix it with water. I don't know how it would react to the glue exactly either. I might try that at some point and see what happens, but mainly because it's going to take a while to dry and cure fully. Same thing with enamels really, although with enamels you have to be careful too with the cleanup. Okay. Alright, give enamels and oils a go just to see. Usually acrylics are cheaper for this sort of purpose, since they're used by so many different people doing crafting and stuff. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and mix in the glue. I have extra glue here in case I don't like what the stickiness factor. And like I said before, I'm kind of approximating. This is not how I normally do it. I actually usually just kind of eyeball it, which is not very helpful for a tutorial. You could also probably use Mod Podge for this. The matte, not the gloss. Unless for some reason you want gloss, I suppose. I probably wouldn't myself, just because Mod Podge can be more expensive sometimes. It depends what you're getting. I got some cheap glue at the store after school season, so that was pretty awesome. It was on sale, so works for me. Also, don't get I wouldn't get the water washable glue. It just, for whatever reason, it doesn't have the same correct consistency, and I don't find that it works very well for training purposes. Also, I'm really hesitant to use it because it is water washable, which means it's even more activated by water than normal PVA, which ends up meaning that, you know, you could probably take some off a lot easier. At least that would be my thought. Okay, now we got the paint part with the glue, and I should have used a funnel. That's okay. We like making messes here. Ooh. I will probably have to add a lot more water, some water to this, because this is going to be too thick. I don't think my little stick is going to work. So we're going to get out my favorite terrain tool. As you can see, my poor spoon. Yeah. And this is why we end up adding water. There's not usually a lot in the paint itself. I'm just trying to get it to where it's a good consistency and will flow well. Obviously, you're going to want to use an old brush when you use this, or even some of those sculpting tools. You see, it's coming along. It's looking pretty good already. The reason being, if you use a regular nice brush with this, you're going to really abrade it with the sand that's in here, and probably break off hairs. You may not even see the damage you do to it, but also, you know, there's glue in here. You don't want to put your brush in glue. It can be very difficult to get out of it, but, you know, an old brush, some old crappy brush, perfect. Okay, so hopefully this will help someone make their own. It's still pretty thick. I actually kind of like it this thickness. You know, use whatever thickness you want. And then again, I have my my flow aid. I put it in a little syringe like this so I can kind of do drops easily. That's probably plenty. It's about 5 drops. You don't need a whole lot. If you find it's not flowing where you need it to, you can always just add a little more. If you do add something like washing up liquid, Dawn, or whatever is in your area, I would definitely only use a drop, because it tends to bubble easily, and it's not a real big problem because you got lots of particles in here to keep the bubbles popped. But I just think that it might not be good for it overall. I've not used it extensively. I've only started using it, and then I pretty much quickly switched to flow aids, so your mileage may vary. Okay, so that's pretty could actually use more sand, but you get the idea. It's going to dry. I also find that doing it by hand like this, probably because I put in a lot more water maybe, or I don't have all the different ingredients that the professionals do, it's going to take a little longer to dry maybe. But if you're doing something like a whole board or a lot of scatter terrain, you're going to really want to do it a cheaper way, and the only thing that's important is to write down your amounts, and like me, so that you can make sure you get the same color consistency in case you run out, or just really overmix it and put it in something like this so it will stay airtight and be usable for time to come. Alright, well, hope that helps you guys, and if you guys are interested in seeing more of these kinds of little my tutorials, let me know. Suggestions are always welcome. If people have a problem doing something, or there's something I know how to do, I'll be happy to try to put you a tutorial together. Thanks very much. Bye.